Hi, you're back.
How you doing, right?
Okay.
That worked out really,
Worked out pretty. I was
really
a little,
good. Yeah.
but we got there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Better slow
And
than
I
never.
and I
All right.
just spoke to my husband. I just went and checked, and the baby's fine, sleeping. So
Good. All right. So we have
yeah.
a little bit more time. So
Mm-hmm.
don't even remember what we're talking about. Do you remember what we were talking about last?
Yeah. So oh gosh. No, I think we
Oh,
left off.
pastures and pasture rotation and how that's
Yeah.
important.
We
Okay.
talked about the whole. So yeah. So what we're doing in and I know I mentioned this a number of times is we're teaching producers a toolbox. We're
Mhm.
giving them a toolbox of things. So we're training them that you don't just rely solely on drugs, right? So we use all these tools, pasture rotation, nutrition. I can't tell you how many farms I've been to, and I say this every workshop I have, but I've been to farms where I mean there's no grass in the field. The animals, their body condition score is horrible. It's poor, and a producer is going to look at me honestly and ask, why am I having so many parasite problems? Remember, everything should start with good nutrition. Good management is the key. If animals are fed right, then they tend to deal better with parasites. Their immunity is better. And when we're talking about immunity as well, exactly, nutrition is the way. You feed your animals well, they do good. Even in younger animals that have a naive immune system, and if you have a set of young animals that aren't fed optimally and a set that's fed optimally, um, then of course this group is going to have more parasite issues, even though at a young age they're both susceptible to internal parasites. So nutrition is key. We can't expect, you get out from them what you put into them, and so we have to feed them. That's the first thing. Nutrition, making sure that their protein requirement is met. Or susceptible animals, remember, an animal that's born naive immune system, they take a while to gain that natural immunity to parasites, and they need to be exposed to parasites in order to gain that immunity, right? Just like anything else, sheep tend to gain that immunity faster
Okay.
or earlier. So sheep will gain that immunity at about 6 months of age. Goats tend to gain immunity to parasites later, at about a year old, or even some never. But they just take slower to gain that natural immunity to parasite. And that's why we found that on our farms in the US, we deworm more goats than we do sheep. All right. And so there's some animals that are more susceptible. So even if you can't focus on all your animals, on every animal in your group, then you should be focusing on the more susceptible ones, your young animals. You should be checking their FAMACHA, checking their 5-point check, making sure that they're not parasitized, and deworm them if they need to be dewormed. Another critical stage, as most of us should be aware, is that periparturient rise in fecal egg counts. Naturally, females, when they're pregnant at around the time of lambing or kidding, their immune system is depressed, and that leaves them susceptible to worms. And so we should be checking 1 to 2 weeks before lambing and kidding, and should be checking for a couple of weeks after, because they're going to be susceptible, especially our females that we know. We all have those females in the herd that are great milkers. They have multiples all the time. Those we should be paying closer attention to than others, or yearlings. But ideally, or animals that are 2 to 3 years or more, they should have developed enough immunity to not really have a parasite problem. All right? They should really not have a parasite problem. And if they do, then you should be, again, keeping, and I didn't say this before, but while you're doing your FAMACHA checks, you should be keeping records. If you have females,
Right.
there is yep, you should be keeping records, because there's a 30-70% rule. Only the 30% of those goats in any herd or flock that are responsible for depositing 80, There are 30% that are responsible for depositing 70% of the worms onto those pasture. So if you can identify those 30%, and you will identify them by doing FOMACHA scores, fecal egg counts, you identify those animals, and if you get rid of them, because remember, parasite resistance is also, it's heritable. So if you're breeding animals that always have high fecal egg counts and always need to be dewormed, they're producing offspring that are probably always going to be parasitized and needing dewormed. So if you can get rid of the ones that always need deworming, especially out of your maternal flock, and keep the ones that hardly require deworming, and then if you could purchase a male. And I know this is harder. In the US, we stress purchasing males from performance tests where they've done fecal egg counts and you could look at that data. But before you purchase an animal, maybe you could require that producer keep a record of his dewormer frequency or FOMACHA scores, or send at least 2 fecal egg counts to the vet to get them assessed. Because an animal that's parasite resistant, they're gonna, for some reason, they just don't get infected. Their fecal egg counts are always low. So they don't have clinical signs and their fecal egg counts are always low. And this is opposite to an animal that's resilient. So we have resistance and resilience. An animal that's resilient will have a high fecal egg count, but they're able to deal with that infection a lot better. And so they have no clinical signs, but they're passing all those eggs into the manure and contaminated or infesting your pasture. So if you're looking at just FOMACHA clinical signs, then you won't know if you're selecting a resistant or resilient animal. So if you're basing your selection just on FOMACHA scores, because resistant or resilient, they don't show any symptoms. However, if you add a fecal egg count to that, and you can see is that animal, that will give you another piece of the puzzle. Does it have a low FOMACHA and low fecal egg counts?
Okay.
That's a
So
resistant animal.
I'm actually going to throw a question out here to like
Uh-huh.
Dr. Patrick's and Pharmacoleal Group and Trevor. Can we get fecal counts in Jamaica? How can we get fecal egg count in Jamaica? How does that work? They'll comment as we keep going, but somebody will answer that for us as we go on.
Yes, exactly. So
There's
it's a
a
good tool. Mm-hmm.
what preparation should be conducted prior to the breeding season?
What preparation prior to the breeding season? If that's, I guess that's just general. Is that parasite? I'm not sure if it's
It's
parasite
because
related. Okay,
it's
so
breeding mother.
prior to the breeding season, as most of you know, if that animal is parasitized, then that's not gonna be optimal for reproduction. I'm not sure how many of you actually do flushing, where you increase the nutrition of those females a couple weeks before breeding, so you're gonna optimize ovulation in those females. At that same time, when you go to up nutrition, you should be checking for any hoof problems, and you should be checking for any parasite problems, because remember, it takes a parasite infection is going to take away energy for egg production, for sperm production. So you should be checking and making sure that before you breed, those animals aren't parasitized. But again, optimally, those should, that if you're going to see a parasite, I'm going to say, if you're going to see a parasite problems, you're going to see them in your yearlings that you're getting ready. So you should focus on those. Your adult females should be resistant. Ideally, what you want is a flock of females that you never have to deworm, right? That's what you want, because they've developed enough resistance. And the only time they get wormy is if they're stressed. So if they say get pregnant with multiples, they're lactating, then you might have to deworm them. And then you know that there's something stressing their body, and that's where their immunity has decreased. But if they are open ideally you want to make sure that you're recording your FOMACHA check and you're doing your fecal egg counts and you're selecting resistant animals so you don't have to worry about deworming. But yes, they should be checked because any stress can affect reproduction.
Okay. So to answer the question I threw out there, it says, yes, we do fecal egg counts, and yes, we do FOMACHA. And several people said they're done training. So it looks like Nutrimix has done training, the Small Ruminants Association of Jamaica has done training, Hypro has done. It's right information out here. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good. Very good.
The Pharmacolysis, Dr. Young taught me fecal egg count. Very good.
And so you should be using those tools. So if you're going to select, if you have your males on your farm and you're going to select, you're going to determine from those offspring which male you're going to use for breeding, then you should be taking multiple fecal egg counts. And we usually train during the parasite season, but in Jamaica that might be, year round. But you should be taking multiple samples to use the fecal egg count in conjunction with the other criteria, whether it's average daily gain, their muscling, conformation, all that stuff. You should be using that as well for as a criteria, because again, if you take multiple samples, you'll truly determine who's parasite resistant or not. And yes, the McMaster technique is the best. That's the one we use in my lab here. That's what we use to do fecal egg counts for sheep and goats. It is.
Very good. So there's another question that says, no, I lost it. Do we have any new wormer in the pipeline? I think you're speaking specifically, or, okay, go ahead. Go ahead,
you said they were talking. Okay, sorry.
That will combination of warmers. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're recommending a combination treatment. In Australia and New Zealand, they have Zolvix. That's a new class of dewormer. That is not FDA approved for the US, and I'm not sure if you guys could have access. I know some producers here in the US who just go ahead and purchase it from Europe, and it gets shipped here, but it's not FDA approved for use in sheep and goats in the US. But that was found to be effective on worms that were resistant to the other drug classes. However, I should let you know that within 3 to 5 years of being introduced in Australia and New Zealand, resistance has developed. So again, we should not, and in the US, we aren't working on new drugs because our sheep and goat industry isn't so large, and for some reason they're not focusing at all on any even we're having an issue in the horse industry, cattle industry, but our pharmaceutical industry isn't. So Australia and New Zealand are leading the way with that, and we're just trying to get them FDA approved for use in the US. There's also Barbavax, which is a vaccine against the barber pole worm that they have in Australia and New Zealand again, and that is just effective against the barber pole worm, and it requires giving subcutaneous injections to young animals. I think multiple, 3 or 4, before they get to a certain age. And I believe that's been found to be effective, and they might be looking to bring that to the US as well. So that's something that I guess the doctors on there could look into. But I haven't heard about any other new drugs in the pipeline. The one new thing that has been available in the US within the last year is the fungus, the Dudingtonia flagrans, and that is the nematode trapping fungus. And so when you feed it to livestock, it survives their digestive system, and it's passed into the manure, and basically as that larvae is developing, it traps it, prevents it from feeding, and kills the larvae in the fecal matter. So that was approved. It's the fungus. Australia developed a new strain of the fungus, and they have a product called Bioworma.
Okay.
And that product has been available in the US for just over a year now. It's very highly effective, and the main reason for this is if we go back to the whole life cycle and we think about it, if we think about the animals on the pasture and the worms that are out there, 10% of the worms are inside the animals, 90% are on the pasture. And so if we feed something that kills what's going to develop on the pasture, then we are more effective in controlling parasites than actually, medicating the animal. So that is that's available. It's highly effective in reducing pasture larvae. The only problem we have in the US is just that it's really expensive for producers to purchase right now. It's just been on the market for a year, but it is effective and it has to be fed. So they sell it. They sell it as just the biowormer or a livermol with biowormer, which is a supplement with the fungus in there that can be fed immediately to animals, or just the biowormer, which you can mix into feed. You can work with your feed mill to mix it in, but it is highly effective. And we were so excited before it got here. We know it works. Our producers just can't afford it because you have to feed it every day for at least 60 days for there to be any control.
The Nutrimix and Hypro, did you hear that? We need that for our feed. Okay.
They need that product. Yeah, you need that to mix into your feed.
Okay.
Biowormer, go to biowormer.com. It's a fungus and it's been found to be really effective. And not only that, I'm not sure how, but we found too that, and this could maybe some of you could tell me more, but there are plants that contain condensed tannins. Like we've had a lot of luck with Sericea lespedeza, or not luck, but Sericea lespedeza has been effective in it has condensed. It's a forage that has condensed tannins, and we found that whether animals graze it, we make it into hay, or we pellets or silage, it reduces fecal egg counts, and it's effective against the barbapole worm and coccidia.
Right.
So it's effective. So our producers have that. If they can grow Sericea lespedeza, then they could use that to control. And copper oxide wire particle as well. So I don't know if you have access to that. Pardon me? Sorry.
Yeah, there's a comment here. Interesting. So one comment was at what cost? So it's going to be very expensive to do that, but also
Okay, so let me.
side effect. Oh, and neem too. That neem is pretty good as well.
Yeah, so in the US, they sell them as 15-pound pails. And I guess you're talking about the biowormer. The fungus. 15-pound pail cost about $89.50. And the dosage that they recommend is 1.6 ounce per 100 pounds. So you'd have to do the calculation. I've done it before, but I just don't know it out of my head. But it just depends on the number of animals you have, their body weight. But it's 1.6 ounce per 100 pounds. That's a livermol with biowormer, so that's a supplement with the fungus. The straight biowormer, which is just it has more spores, that's fed at 0.1 ounce per 100 pounds. And and that one is $495 for a 15-pound pail.
Okay.
But you can go to biowormer.com and check out that website.
The comments are that dried neem leaves. It's a very good, good for parasite control. So
we've done a number of studies too, and I think I saw my colleague on here, Dr. Kwame Matthews from Delaware. He was my former graduate student.
Okay.
And now he's in my former position at Delaware State University. But I lost my train of thought right there. What was it?
Using neem. Neem?
Yeah. So we've done studies with natural dewormers, and we just haven't found any consistent results. But we always tell folks that if you're using it, because my mother swears by some natural products too. And no matter what I tell her, she's like, I've been farming longer than you've been in school. So, yeah. So I can't tell her. She still raises goats. I can't tell her what to do.
Do you believe farms that apply for matcha and fecal egg counts can have animals that almost never deworm?
Yes, I do. I do. If you're using, it's not only using the FAMACHA and using the fecal egg counts, but it's also keeping a record.
Okay.
Record keeping is very important. So you have to keep the FAMACHA score and your fecal egg counts for individual animals. Again, your adults should not require, have developed enough immunity after being exposed that you if you have enough land and you're doing pasture rotation, they should, if anytime they should be parasitized is when they're stressed. If you're feeding right, then that's not going to contribute to them being parasitized. But if they're lactating or they're pregnant with multiples, then that might be one time that they might become parasitized. But yes, genetic selection, when you use FAMACHA, use fecal egg counts, and you select based on those. You get rid of those you have to deworm, and you keep the ones you don't. Very effective. And we have producers here that have become, maybe one thing you could start in Jamaica is doing doing, I don't know if you do performance tests. I'm not sure if you do a performance test and if you measure fecal egg counts with that.
Okay, I am not sure. So guys, chime in. Please stress
Mhm.
record. Oh, somebody else says,
Yes.
please. I think every single
Good
record keeping. So if we
record
haven't said
keeping.
anybody gets the message yet,
Yes.
we're in a lot
My,
of hurt.
my granddad was a farmer and he had a little pocket, a little black book in his pocket, and he wrote everything. My birthday was in there too, but then he would be like, Nessa had babies this day, and he put everything in there. But we have to, and it's not only for parasites, it's for hoof problems and it's for other things. We should be using, yes, everything that we have. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Any questions, guys? We're having good comments though. I hope
Yeah.
you see all that. I haven't seen any questions, all the Facebook Live questions, and I missed maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't. It's been hard to check both, so my apologies.
Slow.
We're good
Yeah.
though.
Or
Okay, so
okay.
yeah, so record keeping, passer rotation, combination, and like I said, all our associations look like they've been doing a great job of training,
Exactly. Hmm.
or feed mills, CARDI, Bodles, small ruminant associations. So everybody's doing their part to spread the word and communicate it to everyone.
Hmm.
We have some of the
And
best
the
and nutritionists still.
best
Yes,
bet from the mill. Very good. Very good. Yeah.
bless you.
Very
We
good.
keep no country can you just get a for pretty much free. Everywhere else, the vets come
It's,
in there. You go. Okay.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been raising goats forever. We should be,
Yes. Some
we should be the best at it. Uh-huh.
result. Did you
Huh?
see that?
An integrated parasite approach, that's exactly nutrition, starting with good nutrition, doing your targeted selective treatment, making sure that if you have to deworm, you're deworming with the most effective treatment, which is a combination treatment. um, using the FAMACHA scores, fecal egg counts to select your animals, all that. It goes and pasture rotation. Combine all of that together, and you already have a toolbox for helping to control parasites. And the one thing I didn't mention was I'm not sure if all your drugs are available as drenches.
Um, I think most of them are. No, ivermectin is injected, but the safeguard is a drench. So
Mhm. So I'm not, if that's the case, then we've done, there's been research projects that have been done that show that there was and I believe it was New Zealand that showed ivermectin injectable. Was it the ivermectin, or they did Cydectin? I think it might. They did the pour on, they did the injectable, and they did the oral drench, and the
okay,
oral drench was most effective in reducing fecal egg counts. And most of the recommendations are to always drench the animals, because you want the drench to get where the worms are, and not injected in the tissue. Yeah.
Uh,
If you follow, if you don't, if you can't, you can't overdose if you use the recommended dose for each dewormer. You will not overdose. And um, the only one that has a small margin, safety margin, would be your levamisole drug.
okay. All right,
Yeah.
very good.
Mhm.
So I know we are coming up to our 8:30 deadline for you. I should say no, 9:30 deadline for you. 9
It's the
Eastern.
baby went to sleep, so it's
Okay,
fine.
they went.
There's
So
some more. Yeah, the baby
all right,
went to sleep. Yeah.
we're good. Okay, very
Mhm.
good. Any other questions, guys? Anyway, so I don't think you heard my question. Somebody asked earlier, are you willing to come to Jamaica to consult?
A few colleagues and I, like, we've been trying to get there for a number of years, and um, it's myself, my close, we work closely as an extension group together. Myself, Susan Shanian, Dr. Kwame Matthews, who's on here, Dr. Nikki Whitley, Dr. Stefan Wildius. They're both reproductive physiologists, as well, and Dr. Nelson Escobar. And we've we've been hoping to get in touch with Case and a number of the veterinarians there, to do a visit and see if there's any way that we can help, because there are two of us there from Jamaica. As I
Mhm.
said, I'm from Old Harbor. My colleague Dr. Matthews is from Aracabessa. And so we would love to come back to see if there's anything. It might be that you already, I mean, I traveled to Ghana once and met with some producers, and they were like, you really can't help us because we know about raising goats. We know everything there is. Yes, that's what. Um, so you guys might not need any help, but we are willing. And as I said, I mean, our expertise goes from just general production to parasitology to reproductive physiology, and we would love to give back. And
Okay. Yeah, we would
when we
love
do the
to come. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I would love, yeah. I no, I just saw when you do the combination wormer, do you do safeguard? We know in the US, out of that class of drugs, we recommend to use the most potent drug from each class. And here that is the valbazen, um, for us. So if you think if safeguard is still, again, I don't know what the how effective the drugs are there. Um, But if Safeguard is the most effective drug from that class, or it's the only one that you have, then yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Any other questions, guys? Here's your chance.
Mhm.
Okay. I think we've gotten everybody so far.
Okay. Okay.
Trying to go through here. So, one last comment that I read from your article, and I thought it's very good for you to kind of, basically, it's a great discussion, is you made the comment that every farm is unique. So you
Hmm.
have to determine how to manage your own, basically your own parasite. I'm going to talk about
Exactly.
that to kind of help round out the conversation then.
I'm sure, um, but yeah, every farm is different in the amount of land they have, the number of animals, the type of animals, everything, the type of even the type of forages they have, what they're supplementing with, everything. And so you have to look at that farm and see what's most effective or what works for you. Producers always ask me, should I use, feed pumpkin seeds for parasite control, or should I use, like somebody said, the neem leaves, no. Um, and so forth. But I say, if it works for you, I can't tell you not to use it. So it's just determining what works for you on your farm. And remember, your animals are unique to your farm. So parasite resistance, it's either homegrown, you can deworm the heck out of them and develop resistance, or you could purchase resistance on your, on your farm. So your level of parasite resistance is going to be different from the next farm. Every farm is different. No two farms are the same. And so your treatment approach is definitely going to be different. But at least if you use those tools, and I'm glad to hear that you've been taught those tools for years now. If you're using those tools and taking that integrated approach or holistic approach to parasite control, then you've gone a long way in helping to control parasites on your farm. So again, the only thing is that I see, and I'm not sure if the vets have done this, is to determine efficacy. How effective are the drugs on those farms? And I think that will answer to that question will then, determine, how to move forward and what new things you might need to introduce if you need to get the bioworma or you need to start doing copper oxide wire particle. No, never do copper sulfate, especially in sheep. We don't want copper toxicity issues. But yeah,
So
yeah.
about dectomax, did I say dectomax?
Yeah, so it's just whatever drug that you have available from every class of drug, from every class that's available to you. So that would be the the Safeguard somebody asked before, that was from the benzimidazole. So the Dectomax is from the ivermectin class or the macrocyclic lactones. So if that's what you have available to you and you feel that it's highly effective, but again, I don't. You really won't know what's the most effective drug in each class until you do some efficacy testing to determine. And you can simply do that with fecal egg count reduction test. And if most of you are doing fecal egg counts already on your farm, or you have labs that can do that, then you just have to work with your veterinarians and set up an experiment where you're taking fecal samples and you're deworming with whatever dewormers you have and just checking the fecal egg counts 7 to 14 days later to see if there was a reduction, what percentage reduction there was, and then you'll know how effective those drugs are. And if you do that with every drug, if you have a large farm and you do that with every drug, then you're able to then say what kind of additive effect a combination treatment is going to have. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think I don't see any more questions, but I do
Okay.
good comments going back and forth. So thank you everybody in the background that's adding your comments to the discussion. We definitely appreciate that. Dr. O'Brien, thank you so much for your pleasure to meet you.
You are welcome.
Stay in
Thank
touch
you
with
for reaching out. Thank you
you,
for reaching out.
to give us some help and some tidbits here and there. So, guys, we are still working on our guests for next week. We kind of like to keep you in limbo anyway, right? So as soon as we know who the guest is for next week, definitely send it out. So thank you guys for joining us. And a couple of you, I know you joined late. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say just one thing. I didn't mention this website, but I did mention at the beginning the American Consortium for Small Ruminant Parasite Control. The website is wormx.info.
Okay.
All information parasite-wise, most current recommendations. We do fact sheets. There's a newsletter. There are blogs. It's timely information on parasite control. So wormx.info for more information. I just wanted to put that plug in. I'm sorry.
You did. I'm glad you did. So, guys, we'll send that out too, just in case everybody can't hear because of this dog all of a sudden. But we will be back next week. And for those of you that joined us late because you're used to 8 o'clock, hopefully you can go online. This will be online so you can see this again. So, see everybody next week. Have a great week.
Bye. Good weekend. Stay safe.
All right. Bye-bye.